Alright, hello and welcome to my presentation on why self-stat boost as a method needs to change. So, as you may know, the Pokemon Reborn AI really loves setup. This is fine, as setting up does allow a Pokemon to sweep many battles. In fact, it's a staple strategy of players and the AI alike. So, what is self-stat boost? Well, it's the method that the AI uses to determine if it should use a setup move. Every move that boosts stats uses this, from Swords Dance to Leaf Storm, etc. However, not all of them use it the same way, and that's okay. It does not take into account items and abilities that can boost stats. So no room service, no throat spray, no soul heart, no moxie, etc. It is a very long method. As you can see, it's about 300 lines. It is filled with buffs and nerfs to the score for basically every scenario that could be important. Structurally, it is almost identical to the 19.5 version. So my AI doc does allow you to look through self-stat boost for yourself in a much less Ruby heavy way. Obviously, there are some methods that have been renamed, different bug fixes, etc. But in general, it is basically the same. Generally, I think it's a good method. It could be edited if we want to go through line by line and adjust things, but I don't really want to do that, and I doubt y'all want to do that, and so frankly I think that's a little bit overkill unless bugs with absurdly high self-stat boost score values continue after a change. So, what is the problem with self-stat boost? Well, Appo recently found a quote-unquote bug where they were getting extremely high mini score values returned from self-stat boost. We're talking 70, 80, and that is bad. That leads to a final score in the 700s, 800s, 900s, 1000. I think theory crafting at some point for 19.5, I was able to get a self-stat boost score of over 1000. Granted, it wasn't in an actual run or an actual battle or anything, but I think it is possible. So, what is the source of that? Well, all setup status moves, so stuff like Nasty Plot, Calm Mind, Howl, Quiver Dance, Shell Smash, have a base, etc., have a base score of 10. However, the final score for those moves is 10 times the mini score, and in the vast majority of those cases, the mini score is returned entirely by self-stat boost. In self-stat boost, the mini score is set to the number of total stages boosted. So take, for example, Quiver Dance. It would set the mini score to 3 before applying all the multiplicative buffs and nerfs. This can get out of hand very quickly. So because self-stat boost has so many score buffs, you can get into exponential territory or pseudo-exponential territory with the sheer amount of 1.5s and 1.3s and 1.2s and 1.1s, and that can skyrocket. Even more so when the base is already high. Take, for example, if, it's one thing if you're dealing with Howl and you boost one stat by one stage. It's another if you are pseudo-exponentiating Shell Smash. And so what this does is it basically adjusts the base score of the moves to be extremely high. We're not talking 10, we're talking 60, 40, 60, 50, 70 before any buffs from self-stat boost, as you can see. Now, how can we fix this? Well, one option would be to reduce the other buffs in self-stat boost. Go through line by line, figure out what's good, what's bad, etc. I don't want to do this. I don't think anyone else wants to do this. I think a lot of self-stat boost is quite good already. But yeah. Another option would be to make every stat in the stats array count as less. However, I don't like that option because it would debuff artificially moves that only boost by 1 to 2 stages, before we get into super crazy values, more when we get into reasonable values, what self-stat boost is built around. Finally, and the option that I sort of propose, is we could create this sort of diminishing return system. So we could have each stat stage apply as one whole numerical boost to the mini score up until, say, 2 stages, 3 stages, 4 stages. It's kind of up to y'all. I'm not a balanced person, so yeah. And then after that, we could make each additional stage provide less of a boost. Self-stat boost already does this a little bit, but that only applies if you already have the boosts when it's analyzing what it should do. So yeah, thank you for attending my presentation, and yeah.